Hey, welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. We are known for having guests on who are OGs, and today we have for you one of the OGs of the Australian Jiu Jitsu community, Mr. James Jelley. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here. Yeah, OG. It's funny being called an OG. I sort of felt like I started late, but it also seems like I've always been doing jiu-jitsu. So, yeah.
When did you actually start, James? What's the background?
I started in 2000, I think, with John Will. I was a little bit reluctant about jiu-jitsu, about Brazilian jiu-jitsu initially. I knew a guy called Craig Robinson, who you may know, Robbo, through work. So he was a client, or the business that he worked for was a client, and he was a blue belt with John Will, and I was a brown belt in sort of some hybrid form of Japanese jiu-jitsu that I was doing at the time.
Did you wear your brown belt to the first class and try and get away with it? Like, I'm a brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Or no?
No, but I did wear my brown belt to the sort of private grappling session that Craig invited me to.
Okay.
Where he proceeded to demolish me relentlessly for about 10 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I went home and licked my wounds for the weekend, and I think I called John Will on Monday and booked in for some private lessons, and then started in his classes not long after that.
That's awesome.
Probably a fairly familiar story, I imagine.
And that was in Melbourne, James. So you're from Melbourne originally?
Geelong.
Okay, yeah. And tell us, you're calling from sunny Hobart at the moment. So what took you there? Tell us about your journey.
Well, so I started training jiu-jitsu in Geelong in about 2000, where I'd been living in Geelong since I was about 13. I started in 2000, so I would have been 35, 36 when I started. In 2010, moved to Ballina in northern New South Wales. I opened initially a jiu-jitsu academy with a little functional training gym, and then opened a massive sort of 700 square metre space with MMA and Muay Thai and BJJ and CrossFit. So I had the first BJJ gym in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales in 2010. And then last year, 2020, moved to Hobart. And after having closed my gym in Northern New South Wales maybe a year earlier, so I went from being the only jiu-jitsu in the Northern Rivers to one of many gyms up there. There's some amazing jiu-jitsu in the Northern Rivers now. There's a guy called David Suarez who runs Portal in Ballina. One of the most technical.
Sounds very Brazilian.
Yeah, he's super technical. He's only a little guy. He weighs about 65 kilos and, tosses us big blokes around all over the place. So he's sensational, one of the most technical people up there, and a guy who you probably will definitely have heard of, Taliesin Suarez, taken over the academy in Byron Bay. There's another club, Elevation Jiu-Jitsu. There's a guy called Adam Ryan, who's only been a black belt for a few years, but he's sort of known as the Danaher of the Northern Rivers. So
nice.
Sort of encyclopedia. So yeah, it's crazy up there now. Moved to Hobart a year ago. I'm actually working a regular job for the first time in 20 years after 20 years of self-employment. And there's heaps of jiu-jitsu here. I was shocked. So Hobart's got so much jiu-jitsu. I knew Adam Newton, who was the first black belt in Tassie through John Will connection, and Jerry Young, who's got Hobart Martial Arts Academy, which is literally 3 minutes drive from my house. So
that's great.
I train there.
What's What's it like? Sorry to cut you off there. Just I guess because we can segue a little bit, but like the experience of being a gym owner, and I presume training, and you're the head honcho, and now, I mean, obviously you'd be a very regarded jiu-jitsuero, but you are now a participant, for want of a better word, again in someone else's club. It sounds like. Is that what's going on? So, what's that experience like for you?
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. It's good to be on somebody else's mat and they've got the responsibility for taking the class. But obviously, it's also nice sometimes to, offer an opinion or offer an alternative sometimes. Yeah, I mean, there are 4 gyms that I've trained at since I've been here, and they're all very welcoming. People seem to be, grateful to have you on their mat. And Hobart Martial Arts Academy, I feel like I'm just part of the family now.
Right.
Jerry's gym. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I love learning. I think as coaches, we need to still be students as well. So, I also, I don't really consider my jiu-jitsu to be anything special. I'm a very average jiu-jitsu guy.
He's been doing it for 21 years, so I'm sure it's not the case at all, but thank you for your humbleness.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I still compete, but I compete for a couple of reasons. One is it's sort of gives me the, something to aim for, but, I think the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is anybody can do it. It doesn't matter whether you're athletic, not athletic, whether you're naturally gifted, and I'm not athletic, I'm not naturally gifted. Doesn't matter whether you're big, small, you can do it. It doesn't matter the age, and I think I like to show that you can still step on the mat and roll. One of your recent guests, Kieran, mentioned our Tasmanian black belt division at our recent comp.
Yep.
Yeah, I was one of the 3. I make some bad decisions. I made the decision to pull guard with Kieran.
Okay.
Wasn't the smartest thing to do.
Yeah.
It's Look, it's good.
And you mentioned you started Ballina CrossFit, so that was in around 2010 or so. So you would have gotten in quite early in the CrossFit sort of years or CrossFit stage. Can you tell us a bit more about that? How was that, and having it as a jiu-jitsu school as well as having CrossFit? How did that go?
I've got, I guess, a bittersweet relationship, I suppose, or experience of CrossFit in that.
The only one, I'm sure. It's like seems to be a common story.
Yeah, and for a couple of reasons. One is physical. I think that my CrossFit probably wasn't all that intelligent, and I think I probably did more damage to my body in a few years of CrossFit than I did in 20 years of jiu-jitsu, through no fault of anybody but myself. The other thing was it took over the space. So we had this massive, big facility, and CrossFit exploded a lot faster than the martial arts side of the gym grew. So when I opened, I started with an 8-meter MMA cage, a 7-meter boxing ring, a massive mat for jiu-jitsu, and then sort of a third of the gym for CrossFit. The ring and the cage ended up having to go because CrossFit needed the space. And then ultimately, I sold my ex-wife and I sold the CrossFit business to somebody else, and they needed the whole space. So I moved my martial arts business out of Ballina, actually, to Lismore, so that they could have the space. And CrossFit Ballina is still there, and it's amazing, run by amazing people. The couple that run it, Erin and Lindsay Vaughan. Lindsay's competed at the CrossFit Games, I think, on 3 or 4 occasions. So it's in brilliant hands. But yeah, it was good being in early.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I felt I wasn't really qualified to run a good CrossFit box, but people came along that were. So, it's good experience.
What would you like? One of the things we love to do is draw parallels between the BJJ community and other communities. Like, we had a power lifter on the other week, and looking at that community versus BJJ.
Yeah.
Like, how would you describe the differences or similarities, preferably in a positive way, between the BJJ and the CrossFit communities? Like, what stands out to you?
Oh, well, I guess a humorous parallel maybe is that, as a BJJ community, we're positive that we've got the best martial art, and and I think the CrossFit community are positive that they've got the best fitness model. So
yeah, okay. So a level of arrogance in both communities, basically, is what you're saying.
Well, it may be true, but yeah, but both very tight. Both. I think both CrossFit gyms, CrossFit boxes, whatever you want to call them, and jiu-jitsu clubs, academies tend to grow some pretty tight-knit communities, some good friends. I've got, I'm still good friends with people that I started jiu-jitsu with, 21 years ago. So, and yeah, very, very community. I don't know. I think maybe just because it may be a little, because it's a little bit intense, or maybe it's I guess we do feel a little bit special. We do have something special, and and I think we seem to stay pretty tight. It's tribal.
Yeah, right.
And James, northern New South Wales, Ballina to Hobart, that's an interesting move. Like, climate-wise, how, for one thing, how's that gone? Like, do you mind? Are you comfortable to talk about what brought you there? What brought you to Hobart?
Yeah. So I came here with an ex-girlfriend. I came here in the middle of winter, the end of winter last year. I came down here in August. I flew into Hobart, came straight into home quarantine. So I'd organised to rent a property that was furnished, that I could then move have them remove the furniture and move my furniture into when it arrived. So I was able to home quarantine. So I came from the airport in an Uber straight to the house, settled in, woke up in the morning, walked out to the back deck, opened the curtains and looked out at the snow on the mountain, had a look at my phone, and it was 1 degree. Look, I grew up in the UK, but maybe I've gone soft in my old age. It's bloody freezing here.
Yeah.
It's the winter is cold, and the spring is like just super windy. But Geelong's not that far north of Tasmania, so
true.
it's but we you can feel the wind off the Antarctic here. Yeah, it's brass monkey weather in the middle of winter.
Damn.
So you've got a podcast as well. So I'd love to talk. I mean, from one podcaster to another, this is a great chance to plug what you're up to, and I guess what's inspired you to start doing it. Just talk a little bit about it so that our listeners can learn. Because I think the thing is, we want to all support each other and spread the love. This is all about getting the BJJ. For Kim and I, this is about introducing the golden hidden nuggets of the BJJ community to others. So if other people who are listening to us want more content to listen to, they should definitely follow, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff with you, and learn more about the BJJ community. That's what I think. So please talk away about what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So my podcast, Forged in Fire podcast, it's basically conversations with primarily men over 40 who've been through rough times, come out the other side. basically just to, to show people that maybe that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that, that when things are dark, that maybe there is something to look forward to, and some shared experiences from people who've been through some tough times. I've had bouts of depression over the years. I've lost friends and colleagues to suicide. Some of them that nobody had any idea that, that there was anything going on. I know lots of people that do struggle with depression. I know lots of people that have struggled with, other issues, alcohol, drugs, etc. And also just people that have had some pretty rough times, whether it be because their career's been ripped out from underneath them, or, terrible relationship breakups. And, so, yeah, it's really just, I felt sort of, I don't know, called or compelled to do it. I've drawn a lot on my friendships, a lot of them through the jiu-jitsu community over the years. I've got people that check in on me. I've got people that I check in on, and it's great to know that that's there. And I just want to give something back, I guess. I think I've benefited so much from those relationships and from people helping me out.
Yeah.
So yeah, just sort of, I've been thinking about it for a while, and then maybe only 4 or 5 weeks ago, I can't remember when I put the post out on Facebook, I just thought, let's just pull the trigger on this. Let's just do it. Have some conversations. I put a post up on Facebook saying that I want to have some conversations with people. And, my messenger was just like ping, 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 ping. And yeah, I was just, and then once I had that response, I just thought, well, you know what? You said you're going to do it. These people all want to talk. So I've posted a couple of podcasts so far, only on YouTube, because I haven't worked out the next bit, which I'll do that over the next couple of weeks. I've been editing.
We only just got on the YouTube a couple of months ago. We've been doing this for over a year, so we're the opposite. We've gone around the other way around. So
yeah.
So it's and I'm enjoying the conversations too, and it's good to have a, I guess in podcast world there's this term, long form conversation. It's good to just do that. And I think it's been good for me as well. Like from a selfish point of view, it's making me a better listener too, because, sometimes, you can tell that, somebody just wants to, they want to let it run. So, you have to learn sometimes to do what is difficult for me. You can probably tell I'm shy and I don't like talking.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So, not interrupting for me.
Yeah.
It's like that's a lesson in itself. When to, and I think that'll translate into my personal life as well, because I'm sure generally,
100%. I mean, I don't know, anyone who's listening out there who perhaps was still listening at the beginning will probably sense that Anton and I are a much smoother unit now than what we were in our very early podcasts. It evolves. So we're we're learning as we go, and hopefully. So you've come in at a good point. If you'd come in like a year ago, we were still like pretty clueless, pretty hopeless. But now we're a well-oiled machine.
It's just crazy times,
And James, you mentioned about that you still compete a little bit, and you talked about how you had a bout against Kieran. So if you don't mind me saying, like, you are an older grappler. How do you find that, competing or even just training with younger people? Like, can you give us any advice on
Sure.
what to do there?
Yeah. Well, as far as competing, it's probably easier because I've got nothing to lose. I'm expected to, I'm the old guy, I'm 57, and, in that last competition, the guys are in their 20s. So, there's no pressure really in that regard. But as far as training, there's a couple of things. One is a few years ago when I was finding it hard at times, I decided that I needed to, I had a bit of a think about my mindset, and I came to a decision, and the decision was that I will enjoy every transaction on the mat, whether it's in the warm-up, whether it's drilling, whether it's sparring, whether it's competing. Just enjoy it, just be in the moment, which you have to be in jiu-jitsu anyway, or you get choked even faster. But just enjoy whatever's happening on the mat. So that's one thing. I've pretty much taken away any. I don't give the outcome any thought anymore. Really, when it's done, it's done. It doesn't matter whether I tap them, they tap me, nobody tapped anybody. I don't really attach anything to the outcome anymore. I just want to roll. And so that's one thing. And another thing was I've been a lifelong asthmatic. And, going back quite a few years, probably at purple belt, I was always being flogged. I was always stuck on the bottom. When I started as a white belt, you've probably heard the people talking about when purple belts were gods. When I was a purple belt, I think we probably had 6 or 7 black belts on the mat and brown belts, and I was always being flogged. And one day I just thought, what if I just try and slow my breathing down? It's just something so obvious now. What if I just try and slow my breathing down? So how am I going to gauge myself? So I played a game, which I still play, which is that I will breathe at a slower pace than the person who's crushing me.
Awesome.
I don't always manage to do it, but that's the objective. One of the black belts down here, Chris Stone, I don't know if you know Stoney.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he reminds me, he can hear me puffing sometimes when he's smashing me. Look, it doesn't always work, but that's the objective. So that's a game that I play. So, I think just do what you need to do to enjoy rolling. I'm not super selective about who I roll with. I pretty much will roll with anybody, but I'm also, if I'm feeling a bit beaten up and fragile, which, sometimes I am, I don't mind saying to the person I'm rolling with, hey, listen, can you go easy? Sometimes I play games. I go into the other night, we had a no-gi open mat at HMAA, and I went in a bunch of, I think there's a purple belt, a blue belt, and a bunch of white belts. And, I went in and I said to them, guys, I'm not going to tap anybody today. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to tap you. I want you to play, and I'm going to, I'm going to talk to you while you're rolling with me. And, I turned the open mat into a little sort of impromptu coaching session. They got something out of it. I got something out of it. I got to coach. They got to play. I got to give them a few tips,
Is that what you do to stay, the amount of time you've now done jiu-jitsu, do you fall in and out of love with jiu-jitsu in this kind of cycle, or how do you keep it fresh and new? It sounds like you make up games and play the games, which is awesome. Is there any tips you've got for staying connected to jiu-jitsu over a longer journey?
I wouldn't say I fall out of love with it, but I think occasionally it can be, sometimes if I'm tired, sometimes I have to drag myself along. When I do drag myself along, the moment I step on the mat, I'm glad that I drag myself along. I probably could train a bit more than I do, but I go to the gym pretty much every day. I've just taken up Muay Thai a couple of months ago after not doing any striking for a few years. And I've sort of, I think maybe I'd like to test myself in that way too. So I've never really done anything where anybody's punched me in the face. So maybe before I'm 60, I'll have a Muay Thai fight. But I've never fallen out of love with jiu-jitsu.
We've had this guy on the show, Stefan Friedrich. You should go watch that show. Maybe we can organize like a catch weight bout or something.
He's a similar age to you as well. He's an MMA. He dabbled in MMA for like in his 50s. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
You've actually preempted my next question, James, which was around like things that you do outside of jiu-jitsu to sort of be able to keep you on the mat. What you mentioned about the Muay Thai and about going to gym and stuff like that. So what other things are you doing to keep you kind of on the mat in one piece and stuff like that, especially if you don't mind me saying as an older grappler?
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I go to the gym is to stay strong enough to deal with the monsters. I do enjoy the gym. I do enjoy just, put my headphones on. It's very different to jiu-jitsu or even CrossFit where you're interacting with a group of people. I just walk into the Anytime Fitness, put my headphones on, crank up the music, and just pretty much just do, strength and power based stuff. And then I'll do some cardio. That obviously helps with jiu-jitsu and just helps with, life in general. I want to be able to do, I want to be able to do everything I want to do for as long as I possibly can. I supplement, and then at the moment, obviously, we've got the, COVID floating around. I supplement vitamin C, vitamin D, bunch of other stuff, magnesium, because I'm always sore. I generally eat a reasonable diet of, real food. When I was heavily involved in CrossFit, I was also heavily into paleo. I probably would still be if I wasn't so lazy with it. But yeah, I believe in that sort of eating. And then, rest, try and get some sleep, relax. I mean, jiu-jitsu's just, jiu-jitsu just seems to be part of everyday life for me. It's not the be all and end all, but I love it, Yeah.
What is the be all and end all?
I don't really know, to be honest. It seems to change.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with somebody a while ago that, there's like, I don't really have any regrets in life, but there's lots of things that maybe I would do differently now. I just think as long as you, I think be nice to people.
Yeah.
I try to be nice to people all the time. I try to be kind. I think it's good to, do things for people without any expectation that there's anything gonna, come back to you. I just think it's just good to be nice. And I don't know, explore things. I like trying new things. I like to travel, which obviously we can't do at the moment. Just things change.
Only if you live in New South Wales can you still do that. Can you do that at the moment? Sorry.
Well, we're in a massive 3-day lockdown at the moment.
Welcome to our world, James.
You guys got nothing on us. Nothing, I tell you. You need lockdown lessons.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, that is a beautiful message. That the be all and end all is being kind to others and being of service to others. I agree. That is the be all and end all to me too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, what else is there really?
Yeah, I agree.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. And 21 years in jiu-jitsu, man. I mean, you must have seen some changes. Can you tell us about like your interpretation of how you see the scene 2000 versus now? Like you must have seen a huge. I mean, you would have started around the time of UFC 1. Yeah. So what?
Actually,
How do
it's
you think?
funny. Yeah, I mean, UFC. Lots of people. You ask people why they started jiu-jitsu, and it was because they say because they watched Hoist in the UFC. When I started jiu-jitsu, it was, it was after. Well, it was after UFC 1. I think UFC 1 was like 94, and I started in 2000. I was that guy at jiu-jitsu where people would be, I'd be saying Tito who, like.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I was until I actually, went looking for UFC because the guys at the gym were all talking about the UFC. I was oblivious. I had absolutely no idea. But yeah, when I started, it was basically the top crew in the gym were purple belts. There was, we had some amazing people come through the gym. We had some pretty tough guys in the gym too. Like when I started, George Soteropoulos was, probably the maybe not the most senior on the mat, but probably the toughest guy on the mat.
Wow.
George Soteropoulos, Chris Dirksen, they were hard guys. I used to get to roll with them and get towed up, which, was very interesting. It was good to do. I saw Marianne Mullahy come in her school uniform.
What a legend. I love that woman.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
He designed our logo, by the way. So it's funny the way everything interacts, isn't it? The connections are all there.
Oh yeah, she used to come in her school uniform, get changed into her gi, walk out on the mat, beat up all the boys. Pretty much, you knew when you rolled with Marianne that she was going to triangle choke you.
And you couldn't do anything about
it. Yeah, yeah. That was really interesting actually, watching all these guys being humbled by a schoolgirl.
Yeah.
Awesome. But as far as it's changed so much now, hasn't it? The no gi, no gi is the flavour of the month, and submission only. Ashigarami, heel hooks, etc., etc. It's all fun. I'm petrified. I'm petrified of getting my knee destroyed with a heel hook, and I probably won't compete in a no gi black belt division because I think that's probably the one thing that could see me off the mat forever.
Yeah.
But I'll train, but I'll roll in the gym with people I trust. Heel hooking me, but I'm not going to risk my knee, in competition. But yeah, look, it has changed a lot. I think it's just getting bigger and bigger. It's becoming more mainstream. I think maybe clubs will start to specialise. Well, you're seeing it even in Hobart. You're seeing that now, like HTC, Hybrid Training Centre. Very much a no gi club. 10th Planet's quite big here. At HMAA, we do both. Probably typical of clubs in the south. It's probably gi in the winter and no gi in the summer. But I think there'll probably be more specialisation. Maybe there'll be clubs that pretty much just focus on self-defence and some gi comp and some no gi and some MMA. I don't know.
I'm going to have to get you back on the show sometime. I want to talk about Mona Gallery, one of my favourite places in the world, all sorts of other things. But we've got a minute and 23 seconds left. So have you got any messages for the BJJ community in general that you'd like to get out there?
Well, I'd love to obviously plug my podcast, Forged in Fire podcast, currently only on YouTube. So find us on YouTube. I'd like to thank you guys for having me on for a chat. As far as the BJJ community, just look, we've got a beautiful thing. Keep on enjoying it.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much. And from one lockdown city to another, I can tell you, you will be out of it probably before we are here in Melbourne. So enjoy. And thank you so much for giving up your time. We'll have this out probably in a couple of weeks. If you could share it, that'd be awesome.
I
We've
will.
got it on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Facebook. Where else, Anton?
Everywhere. It's everywhere.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
Be
So,
well,
yeah.
everybody. Talk soon.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys. Cheers.
Take care.
See you
Bye.
later.